A major vote in the U.S. Senate has put President Trump's Iran war powers under serious political pressure. Lawmakers have advanced a resolution that would require congressional approval before continued military action against Iran. The vote does not end the conflict immediately, but it marks one of the strongest signs yet that some members of Congress, including a few Republicans, are no longer comfortable with the president continuing military operations without a formal vote from Congress. And for ordinary Americans, this debate is not only about foreign policy. It could affect U.S. troops, oil prices, gas prices, inflation, government spending, and the broader direction of American national security. Hello and welcome back. Today we are covering a major political and national security story from Washington. On May 19th, 2026, the U.S. Senate advanced a war powers resolution aimed at limiting President Donald Trump's ability to continue military action against Iran without authorization from Congress. According to Reuters, the Senate procedural vote passed 50 to 47, with four Republican senators joining most Democrats in support of moving the resolution forward. The resolution still faces major hurdles before it can become effective, including passage in the House and the possibility of a presidential veto. This vote is important because it brings back one of the biggest constitutional questions in American government. Who has the power to take the country into war? The president is commander in chief, but the Constitution gives Congress the power to declare war. That tension has shaped American foreign policy for decades, especially after conflicts in Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and now Iran. In this case, the Senate's vote is not just symbolic. It reflects growing concern among lawmakers that the United States could be pulled deeper into a long and costly conflict without a clear strategy, without full public debate, and without direct congressional approval. The resolution advanced by the Senate would require President Trump to end U.S. military action against Iran unless Congress formally authorizes continued hostilities. Reuters reported that this was a procedural vote, meaning it moves the resolution forward but does not yet make it law. The measure still needs to pass the full Senate, then the Republican led House of Representatives, and it would also need enough support to overcome an expected Trump veto. Four Republican senators supported the measure: Rand Paul of Kentucky, Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Bill Cassidy of Louisiana. Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania was the only Democrat who voted against advancing the measure. This matters because previous attempts to limit the president's Iran war powers had failed. Reuters reported that Senate Republicans had blocked seven earlier attempts this year to advance similar resolutions. So this vote represents a shift. It doesn't mean Congress has stopped the war, but it does show that opposition to continued military action is growing, including within the president's own party. The war powers debate is rooted in a 1973 law passed after the Vietnam War. Under that law, a president can conduct military action for a limited period, but after 60 days, the president must either end the action, ask Congress for authorization, or seek a limited extension under specific conditions. Reuters reported that the current conflict reached a key deadline on May 1st, 2026, 60 days after President Trump formally informed Congress that the conflict had started. President Trump has argued that a ceasefire ended hostilities with Iran. But Reuters also reported that despite that assertion, the United States has continued actions including blockading Iranian ports and striking Iranian ships, while Iran has continued actions affecting the Strait of Hormuz and U.S. ships. This is why the legal and political debate has intensified. Supporters of the resolution argue that continued military action requires congressional approval. The White House and many Republicans argue that the president's actions are legal and fall within his authority as commander in chief, especially if the operations are described as limited military action. This story matters for several reasons. First, it affects U.S. troops. Any continued military operation in the Middle East increases risk for American service members, military bases, naval assets, and U.S. personnel in the region. Second, it affects the economy. Iran is located near the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important oil shipping routes. If conflict affects oil movement through that area, energy prices can rise quickly. That can lead to higher gasoline prices, higher transportation costs, and possibly higher inflation for American households. Third, it affects government spending. Military operations are expensive. If the conflict continues, taxpayers may face higher defense related costs, even while families are already dealing with pressure from housing, groceries, energy bills, and borrowing costs. Fourth, it affects public trust. Many Americans want clarity before the country becomes involved in another prolonged military conflict. A formal congressional debate would force lawmakers to explain the goals, costs, risks, and possible endgame of the conflict. For ordinary Americans, this may sound like a Washington power struggle, but the impact can reach everyday life very quickly. If tensions with Iran push oil prices higher, families may pay more at the gas pump. Small businesses may face higher shipping and delivery costs. Airlines may raise ticket prices if fuel costs rise. Farmers may face higher fertilizer and transport costs. Retirees and workers with 401s may see market volatility if investors fear a wider Middle East conflict. And military families may face the deepest impact of all, especially if U.S. service members remain deployed in dangerous conditions. So, this story is not only about Congress and the White House, it is about the financial, security, and personal consequences that can reach millions of American households. Professionally, this Senate vote is significant for three main reasons. First, it shows growing congressional resistance. The vote passed narrowly, but the fact that four Republicans supported it shows that concern over the Iran conflict is no longer limited to Democrats. Second, it creates political pressure on the White House. Even if the resolution does not become law, it forces the administration to defend its strategy more clearly. Lawmakers and the public will likely ask, what is the goal? How long will this last? What is the exit plan? And what are the costs? Third, the resolution faces a difficult path. Because the measure would likely face strong opposition in the House and a possible presidential veto, it may not immediately change U.S. military policy. But the vote still matters because it puts the debate on the record. Every senator who voted had to take a position on whether Congress should authorize continued military action against Iran. That alone can shape public debate, future votes, and the political pressure surrounding the conflict. The Senate's move to advance the Iran War Powers Resolution is a major development in Washington. It does not immediately end U.S. military action, but it does send a clear message that Congress is becoming more willing to challenge the president's authority over the conflict. As tensions continue, the key questions remain. Will Congress formally authorize continued military action? Will the White House seek approval or continue arguing that its actions are already legal? And most importantly, how long can this conflict continue before it creates deeper consequences for U.S. troops, American families, energy prices, and the broader economy? This is a developing story, and its impact could go far beyond Washington. What do you think? Should the president be allowed to continue military action against Iran without congressional approval? Or should Congress have the final say before the conflict continues? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this update useful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. We will continue following this story and bringing you clear, verified, and professional updates as new developments unfold.